The manhwa starts with our protagonist wasting time indulging in his usual habits. He finishes up, tosses his tissue aside, and prepares for another round. This time, he watches a video of a person using hypnosis on girls, believing that such a power is the ultimate ability. However, his heart suddenly aches, pain surging through his chest. He suffers a heart attack, collapsing to the floor. As his vision blurs, the last thing he sees is the hypnosis video before everything fades to white. He wakes up in a vast, white space, confused about where he is. Suddenly, a prompt appears before him, instructing him to select two abilities. He wonders if he's being transported to another world. Without hesitation, he chooses hypnosis, an ability without side effects. With the power granted, he selects his second ability, status visualization, allowing him to see his stats displayed like a video game whenever he wishes. As soon as the request is granted, he is teleported into a forest. He stands there, bewildered. Is this real? He opens his status and is shocked to see that it actually worked. Excited about his newfound abilities, he quickly snaps back to reality and surveys his surroundings. Just then, he notices a black wolf slowly approaching him, making him nervous. He remembers that he has hypnosis and tries to command the wolf to sit. However, it doesn't work. Panic sets in as he recalls that the hypnosis ability only affects beings he can communicate with. Realizing his mistake, he turns and runs, but not fast enough. The wolf lunges, its claws raking across his body, leaving painful bruises. He stumbles, trips, and falls to the ground, helpless as the beast closes in. Just as he accepts his fate, a stranger's voice rings out. "Are you okay?" The next instant, the stranger slays the wolf with ease. Relief washes over him, and, knowing that he's safe, he finally lets himself drift into unconsciousness. He later wakes up in a cozy wooden house, surprised but deeply relieved to still be alive. As he gathers his senses, he notices a woman with giant melons standing nearby. With gratitude in his voice, he thanks her for saving his life, but she tells him it was actually her husband who saved him. Still a bit dazed, he can't help but admire her body and size, wanting to destroy her. Just then, the man who saved him enters the room, asking if he feels okay. He nods, but his growling stomach gives away his hunger. The man smiles and offers to get him something to eat. Later at dinner, the husband wants to ask him some questions once he's full. After eating up, husband asks why he was being chased by stray dog in the beast forest. Struggling to answer, he wonders if he should use his hypnosis skill. He uses his ability, Hypnosis Wave, on both of them, saying everything he's about to tell them is very reasonable and plausible, and there's nothing but the truth in his words. When he snaps his finger, they will return back to normal but will still follow his orders, and then he snaps his fingers. He makes some random excuse which they believed without any suspicion. They then introduces themselves, the husband as Glenn, and his kind wife as Lena. Our protagonist introduces himself as Hypno and asked if he can stay for as long as he wants, which they don't mind at all. Today, after staying over, our protagonist asks some questions about this world. She explains different areas of the world. The middle realm was where the different species lived and also where he just was. Then there was the demon realm, where the demons lived. The god realm and the demon realm were at war with each other. The county he was in was called Midden, located in the central continent, with the current house he's residing in the beast forest of the Midden, which explains why the both of them are in solitude, to get away from the war. With them selling meat or pelts of beasts they've hunted in order to make a living and survive. He then looks over at Lena's body, salivating at the thickness of her. However, he remembers that they're married, but he comes up with an idea of his hypnosis power to make them also happy while doing what he wants. He checks his status and sees the power to control memories, senses, minds, and emotions. He smirks, saying he'll make both of them happy. He stands up, approaches Lena from behind, and uses his power to make her accept his gratitude, saying it's weird if she doesn't accept it. The hypnosis worked, tempting Hypno to go a bit further. He tells her that he wants to express his gratitude towards her. She doesn't mind, however. It can't be done right now, as she's cooking. Realizing the hypnosis worked, he leaves her alone. She continues to prepare lunch, however his gaze for her thickness grows stronger by the second. He reaches his hand and touches her peach, making her think that he is expressing his gratitude. He gets excited and decides to change the question. He asks if her husband Glenn does naughty things to her. She says yes. Then Hypno asks when Glenn touches. She answers at night, while blushing and saying it feels good because it's her husband, thinking that the hypnosis wore off or if there's a timer to the power. She decides to delay lunch and invites him to go to her room with her. He without a doubt follows her upstairs and goes to her room, which got him thinking whose room is he currently using. Lena explains that he's using her daughter's room for the time being, has left town with her boyfriend. They sit down, then she starts undressing, making him excited. They get to the foreplay and hands-only action, making Lena already wasted. He uses his hypnosis, saying he expressed his gratitude and made her feel happy. Now it's her turn to repay the happiness he gave to her, and instantly whips out his third leg. She blushes and doesn't know if she can repay him back. After she polished his banana, she drank his sauce, making him even cornier. He quickly checks his status, upgrades his strength, which makes his shoulders wider instantly. He tries to upgrade it again in a different spot, which makes his third leg even bigger. Smiling from excitement, he grabs her, throws her onto the bed, and gets ready for their cardio session. But before they start, she tells him to get off for a bit, and stands up and walks over to a picture of her and her husband, nervously turns it away and grabs protection. This made him sad, as he wanted to do it raw, but stays positive and dives into the session. After just one intense round, which almost crushed Lena, she explains that she has about 100 more slimes. They then get to wrestling. The next morning, they hold hands, talking about how tired they feel and how they still want to do it again. She gets up and uses her magic to clean herself, removing all traces of his fluids. Curious, he asks what she just did. She explains that it's her own magic, then leaves to prepare breakfast. While our protagonist lies in his bed, feeling accomplished that he just clapped the baddie for the first time. He slaps himself out of it. Unable to contain his excitement, he yells out. Later, he checks his stats and decides to allocate all his extra points into stamina, realizing he was getting drained during the cardio session with Lena. While reviewing his abilities, he notices a new one has appeared. He then chooses to invest his point into absolute contraception. He salivates over it, because now he can do it raw next time. At breakfast, Glenn thanks him for appreciating their food. Meanwhile, Hypno is playing with Lena's cake in front of Glenn, who just watches as his wife's cake is being toyed with. However, earlier, Hypno had used his power on Glenn, saying he would feel happy as long as his wife received gratitude. Hypno then casually asks how often Glenn and Lena engage in snoo-snoo. He says it's been a while since they last goofed around. Hypno is shocked and asks how they could go so long without doing it. Glenn explains that after their first child was born, they continued having snoo-snoo in hopes of a second child, but she never got pregnant. He adds that it's been roughly 8 years since they last wrestled. Hypno then asks Lena if there's any issue on her side. She replies no, assuring that she loves her husband no matter what while her abalone is being played with by him, causing her to blush. She expresses appreciation for Hypno's gratitude toward her. Excited, Hypno lifts her up and uses his hypnosis on Glenn, explaining that he wants to continue showing his appreciation to Lena and that Glenn must stay in his daughter's room. Hypno declares that he'll be taking over Glenn's bedroom from now on. Glenn looks enraged and confused, struggling to accept that he may never be intimate with his wife again. Hypno becomes worried if his powers are still in effect. He plays along with it and confirms his assumption. Just then, Lena approaches and supports Hypno, explaining that their relationship had become one-sided, limited to just using her mouth and hands. She expresses a desire to explore other ways to fulfill her snoo-snoo life. Hearing all of this, Glenn becomes overjoyed and agrees with the idea. Lena comforts him, telling him he made the right decision. She smiles and says they should never do it again while Glenn agrees. They get physically affectionate and emotionally close, while Hypno stands there, slightly stunned by what just happened. Then he smirks, getting ready for some more action. The next morning, he wakes up with a hazy memory but clearly recalls having a wonderful night with Lena, enjoying what felt like a dream come true. As he stretches beneath the sheets, he feels some movement below. Lifting the covers, he sees Lena giving his banana a polish. She then reminds him that before they went to sleep, he had asked her several different questions, one of which was whether she had ever tasted her husband's sauce. She admitted she hadn't. Hypno then pulls her close and compliments her technique. Smiling, she asks if he'd like her to keep going. Later on, Hypno uses his power so that every time Lena consumes his mayonnaise, she experiences sudden waves of intense pleasure, leading her to become more lustful. Meanwhile, Glenn wakes up, assuming his wife must be preparing breakfast by now. But when he goes to the kitchen, he doesn't find her there. Upstairs, Hypno is telling Lena to pose in a weird way. As Glenn heads toward their room, he begins to hear a series of sounds coming from their room. He opens the door and is stunned to see his wife being used like a tool. Hypno, startled by Glenn's sudden appearance, greets him and admits he was caught off guard. Standing in shock, Glenn asks Lena what she's doing. She replies calmly, saying she's simply returning the gratitude Hypno has shown her so many times. For a moment, Glenn looks like he's about to explode, but then, suddenly, he smiles and begins cheering her on. Hypno begins to wonder where this weird conversation is leading, then asks Glenn why he's there. At that moment, Lena suddenly remembers she was supposed to make breakfast, having become completely distracted while polishing Hypno's banana. She rushes downstairs naked, leaving Glenn and Hypno alone in an awkward silence. Trying to break the tension, Glenn asks how Lena's repayment was. Hypno smirks and says it was the best feeling in the world, explaining her abalone is the best in the world. Glenn compliments Hypno's energy and says he's genuinely happy to see him so pleased. It brings him joy as well. Later at dinner, Hypno is literally clapping Lena right in front of Glenn. Glenn is just staring at them intensely, without looking away, enjoying the view of his wife getting clapped, thinking that he's kind of into this. Glenn speaks to himself, still in disbelief at seeing his wife openly expressing her gratitude toward Hypno. Though part of him wants to stay and watch rather than go out on his hunt, he decides to leave anyway. As he says goodbye to his wife, while she's still in the middle of it, she leans over and kisses him farewell, all while Hypno continues enjoying himself. Before leaving, Glenn tells Lena to do it properly and asks Hypno to take good care of her while he's gone. Hypno smirks and reassures him, saying he'll take care of her all right.